Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the April 1st, 2026 Unionville Town Board meeting. We'll open with a salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, motion to approve the minutes from March 4th, please.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried, thank you. Let's see, recreation director, okay. Just want to give everybody a reminder of a couple upcoming events. We have our Easter egg hunt this Saturday, April 4th, starting 10:30 for special needs children. And then the regular hunt is at 11:30. We have more details coming up in the recreation report. We also have the roadside cleanup on April 18th, and we'll meet at the the Clove Firehouse, Station 2, on Clove Road at 9:30 on April 18th. And we will work until noon. We'll have donuts and pizza. That's in conjunction with the fire department. And yesterday I got a phone call from a resident asking about his sewer and water bill. And it sounds like it may be a possible scam that's circulating. Just want to let our residents know that Town of Unionville does not have any public water or sewer systems, so we do not issue any bills. Just make sure you're not paying something that doesn't exist. With that, pass it on to Councilman Redinger.
I was going to give the same update Steve did.
Okay. Councilman Harrington.
I do my best to follow town issues, and I'm getting back into the swing of things, but I don't have anything to report at this moment.
Okay. Councilman Derlin.
Not much to report other than just getting ready for the agenda.
Okay, very good. Councilman McGivney.
Supervisor Frazier mentioned about the orange bag campaign. He said the date is going to be April 18th. The rain date is going to be April 25th. And it's a good opportunity for those high school students that are required to do community service in order to graduate. That's all I have for this week.
Okay, thank you. Town board or town clerk rather.
Thank you. Just a reminder that our annual document shredding day is on May 6th. And if you want to be alerted when the truck arrives, please call my office and I'll put you on the list. Another reminder, the burn ban is in effect until May 14th. So there's no open burning according to DEC. So after that's lifted, check for more updates. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Redinger, would you like to read the rec report, please?
This Saturday, April 4th, we will host our annual egg hunt for all events. We will once again be running a sensory-friendly hunt at 10:30 a.m. and 2 traditional egg hunts for ages 6 and under and 7 to 10 years old at 11:30 a.m. The Easter Bunny will be available for pictures after each egg hunt. The event is rain or shine. Registration is required for the egg hunts, and further details on each specific hunt can be found on the Parks and Recreation website. Our team has officially opened up registration for public swim lessons and memberships for the pool. More details on that, as well as further information on the schedule of pool hours and day pass prices, can be found at the Parks and Rec website. Our team continues to prepare for our summer programming. If you would like to be put on the wait list for any of our sold out programs, please call the Parks office.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Derlin, could you read the park report, please?
Sure. Park report for 4/1/2026. We have finished replacing the ceiling tiles in the senior center. With winter over, we have started to do our final cleanup, and we'll be putting away our plows and snow equipment. The pools have thawed out and we have started cleaning them up as much as we can before we turn the water back on. Some tiles in the kiddie pool have popped off and will need to be repaired when we drain it to remove the winter plugs from the drains. We've been cleaning up the trails in preparation for the youth mountain bike event that is happening on the 18th and the 19th of April. Thankfully, they are drying up from all the snow, and snow melt relatively quickly. Soon we'll be back to mowing and trimming the grass of the park. The seasonal bathrooms will most likely be open next week, weather permitting.
Okay, thank you. Public comment on agenda items. Anyone? Okay. When we set our meeting schedule, I had moved the second August meeting to the fourth week of the month, because generally I'm up at the fairgrounds the third week. For some reason, the fair is being held the fourth week of August this year. So if everyone is on board, I'd like to make a motion to move that back to the third Wednesday of August. Anyone have any issues with that? Can I get a second on the motion?
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we'll post the change then on the calendar. Just about a year ago, our personnel clerk, we learned that she was working outside her job title and came up with the personnel assistant position, and she recently passed the civil service test on that. The county would like us to reappoint her to that position, so we have the resolution to that effect here. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Nope.
Councilman McGivney, would you like to read the resolution, please?
Sure. Town of Unionville, Town Board Resolution 34, 2026, resolution reappointing personnel assistant. Whereas the Town of Unionville previously created a new position of personnel assistant with a competitive, which is competitive position, and appointed Laura Sumner to that position contingent upon Laura taking and successfully passing the civil service exam for that position. Whereas Laura has since taken and passed the civil service exam, and the county has requested that she be reappointed to the position. And whereas Town of Unionville is desirous of reappointing Laura Sumner to the position of personal assistant. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows. The recitations above set forth are incorporated in this resolution as it fully set forth and adopted herein. To the Town Board of the Town of Unionville hereby reappoints Laura Sumner to the position of personnel assistant. 3, Laura Sumner shall be paid an hourly rate of $29.86 per hour, which shall be paid from the personnel service budget line number 1310.1. 4th, the town board hereby authorizes and directs the town supervisor and the bookkeeper to file any and all documentation necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution. 5, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Have a second on that, please?
Second.
Any further discussion? Have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Harrington,
Aye.
Councilman Rettinger,
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier,
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Derland.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to old business. We are here at the consideration of the RD10 code change that we've been working on for quite some time. Our attorneys have worked hard on this and brought us a resolution that satisfies everything we're looking to do and addresses many of the concerns that were raised during the procedure. I'll read the resolution and we'll open it up to discussion afterwards. Have the local law number 1 of 2026, resolution of adoption. Local law amending zoning code article 11, 210-86, 210-56E, and attachment 210-3 relating to the establishment of a special permit in the RD10 district for catering facilities with a temporary lodging component and the elimination of conference centers as a permitted use in the RD10 district as revised. The following resolution of adoption was offered by myself and seconded, well, we'll find that out in a moment, who would move to its adoption, whereas on the October 2nd, 2024, Supervisor Frazier introduced a local law for the town of Unionville, the town, initially to be known as local law number 2 of 2024, entitled a local law amending zoning code article 11, 210-86, 210-56E, and attachment 210-3 relating to the establishment of a special permit in the RD10 district for catering facilities with a temporary lodging component and the elimination of conference centers as a permitted use in the RD10 district. The original proposed law. A copy of which proposed law, together with the resolution of introduction and meeting minutes dated October 2nd, 2024, are annexed in Exhibit A. And whereas pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, the town board, which had before it a full environmental assessment form, FEAF, attached hereto as Exhibit B, determined that the adopting original proposed local law was a type 1 action for secret purposes. At his regular meeting on October 2nd, 2024, and also determined that it would be SECRA lead agency. And whereas the original proposed local law was referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development on October 17th, 2024, pursuant to General Municipal Law 239-M, and to the Town of Unionville Planning Board pursuant to Town Code 210-83A. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing on the original proposed local law was held on October 16th, 2024, the minutes of which are annexed hereto as Exhibit C, at which hearing there were no comments made by the public. The town board discussed the original proposal local law, voted to remove paragraph 13B relating to parking requirements, and then resolved to continue the public hearing at a later date. Whereas the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development responded to the town's GML 239-M referral on November 6, 2024, attached to hereto as Exhibit D, and advised that the action was a matter of local concern with comments. And whereas the board received comment from the Town of Unionville Planning Board on November 14th, 2024, attached hereto as Exhibit E, was proposed one revision to Section 17B of the original proposed local law, and with said revision made a favorable recommendation to the local law. Whereas the original proposed local law was modified after considering the comments of the Dutchess County Planning Department and following discussion of the town board at the October 16th, 2024 meeting to provide land bank parking in lieu of immediate construction, to require lodging facilities not to be used by transient guests not associated with an event on the site, to limit the maximum square footage of all lodging facilities to 5,000 square feet, to prohibit outdoor activity prior to 10 a.m., to prohibit indoor activity prior to 10 a.m. and after midnight, to require that no noise be heard on adjacent properties prior to 10 a.m. or after 10 p.m., and to allow the planning board to require a noise analysis and lighting plan prior to issuance of the special use permit, all without diminishing the standard pre-existing noise limitations under Town Code 210-24. And whereas these modifications were incorporated into and reflected in a redrafted local law, the first revised proposed local law, which was reintroduced on November 20th, 2024, for consideration at a public hearing to be held on December 4th, 2024, which resolution of reintroduction, redline proposed local law, and meeting minutes of November 20th, 2024 are attached here too as Exhibit F. And whereas the first revised proposed local law was again referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development on November 22nd, 2024, pursuant to General Municipal Law 239-M, and to the Town of Unionville Planning Board pursuant to Town Code 210-83A. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing on a first revised proposed local law was held on December 4th, 2024, the notice and minutes of which are attached here to as Exhibit G, at which hearing all wishing to be heard were heard, including community members who voiced concerns regarding the proposed local law. At the conclusion of which the board tabled the vote to await the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development's response and to potentially extend the public hearing. And whereas the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development responded on December 18th, 2024, this time deeming the action a matter of local concern with no comments, Attached here too is Exhibit H. The Town of Unionville Planning Board submitted no further comment to the town board at the first revised proposed local law. And whereas another duly noticed public hearing on the first revised proposed local law, then referred to as local law number 1 of 2025, formerly local law number 2 of 2024, was held on February 5th, 2025, the notice and minutes of which are attached here too as Exhibit I, at which hearing the community members voiced their comments and concerns. The board received written correspondences included at Exhibit I. The public hearing was closed and no vote was taken. And whereas a second revised proposed local law, again referred to as local law number 1 of 2025, was prepared, which incorporated changes in response to the public comments received during the February 5th, 2025 public hearing and recommendations of consultants contained in the March 14th, 2025 memorandum attached as Exhibit T to increase the minimum lot size from 50 to 75 acres, to strengthen performance standards for lighting, to incorporate a reference to the noise limitations in Town Code 210-24A, and to allow the planning board to require further noise studies, increased setbacks, or other noise attenuation measures to ensure that operations would remain in line with the community character and minimize disturbance to neighboring properties. Which second revised proposed local law, the resolution of reintroduction for it dated April 16th, 2025, a new FEAF Part 1, and meeting minutes of April 16, 2025 are attached here too as Exhibit J. And whereas the town board, when it reintroduced the second revised proposed local law, directed that the public hearing be held on May 21st, 2025, again directed referral to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development and the Unionville Planning Board, and further directed that notices be sent to the clerks of adjoining towns. And whereas the April 16th, 2025 reintroduction resolution, this board, having considered the new FEAF, which was attached to it, again determined that this was a type 1 action, declared itself lead agency. Whereas the second revised proposed local law was referred to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development and the Unionville Planning Board on April 22nd, 2025, a notice of hearing was given to contiguous towns. And whereas the town board received a response from the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development on May 7th, 2025, attached here too is Exhibit K, stating that adopting the proposed law was a matter of local concern with no comment. The additional comments were received from the Unionville Planning Board no additional comments were received from the Unionville Planning Board. And whereas a duly noticed public hearing on the second revised proposed local law was opened on May 21st, 2025, the minutes and notice for which are annexed here too as Exhibit L, at which all of those who desire to be heard on the second revised proposed local law were heard. And the hearing was held open to be continued at the June 4th, 2025 meeting, town board meeting at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. And whereas the public hearing was continued on June 4th, 2025, the minutes of which are annexed here too as Exhibit M, at which all of those who desire to be heard on the second revised proposed local law were heard. And the board received a written comment contained as Exhibit M, and the hearing was held open to be continued at the July 16th, 2025 town board meeting at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. And whereas the public hearing was continued on July 16th, 2025, the minutes of which are contained at Exhibit M, at which time all interested parties were heard. And the hearing was duly closed. And whereas this regular meeting was held on August 27th, 2025, the minutes of which are contained in Exhibit M, board members discussed moving forward with the RD10 amendment and voted in favor of authorizing town board consultants to prepare the necessary documentation to complete the environmental review on the action. And whereas the text of the second revised proposed local law was inconsequentially corrected to amend two clerical errors, the schedule of use regulations at 210 attachment 3 was revised to correctly refer to the RA5, RA2, and R1 zoning districts, and the term plant as section 210-56E 17C 14A was corrected to catering facility building. The corrected text is attached here too as Exhibit N. And whereas in addition to the primary action described above, in early 2024, Joseph Fiscaldo expressed interest in developing an 80.52 parcel acre parcel presently owned by Elizabeth A. Gillespie and Herman W. Freihoffer Jr. and identified as tax parcel number 6660-00-780173. The Freihoffer parcel as a wedding venue with guest cottages. And whereas this February 22nd, 2024, Unionville Code Enforcement Officer George A. Kolb issued a notice of zoning determination attached hereto as Exhibit O, stating that the development of Freihoffer parcel as a wedding venue would fall more clearly under conference center use. And whereas on March 2nd, 2024, Mr. Fiscaldo submitted a sketch site plan together with an application attached hereto as Exhibit P to the Town of Unionville Planning Board, known as the Planning Board, requesting sketch review and the scheduling of a work session to review a potential wedding venue at the Freihoffer parcel, which is in the RD10 zoning district. And whereas the application included a short EAF, SEAF, Part 1, and a map entitled Sketch Site Plan for Fiscaldo Wedding Venue, prepared by M. Gillespie and Associates, Consulting Engineering PLLC, dated December 17th, 2023. Included at Exhibit P, and whereas on April 11th, 2024, at a regular meeting, Mr. Fiscaldo introduced and explained the project to the Town Board, which minutes are included at Exhibit P. And whereas on April 23rd, 2024, George A. Kolb issued a revised notice of zoning determination attached as Exhibit Q, reiterating that a wedding venue use of the Freihoffer property parcel was most similar to a conference center, but stating that conference centers require a 100-acre minimum under Unionville Code Section 210-56E4. And that the existing 80.52 acre Freihoffer parcel would therefore require an area variance from the Unionville Zoning Board of Appeals, the ZBA. And whereas on June 11th, 2024, Mr. Fiscaldo submitted an application for a 19.5 acre area variance to allow for the use of subject 80.52 acre Freihoffer parcel as a wedding venue, which application is attached at Exhibit R. And whereas on July 2nd, 2024, the ZBA determined that the application was not properly before it because the issue of whether the use was allowed in the zone was not yet settled. The meeting minutes of July 2nd, 2024 meeting and the subsequent August 6th, 2024 meeting at which the application was also briefly discussed along with correspondence from the ZBA chair to the ZBA members are included in Exhibit R. And whereas because any potential development of the project depicted in the sketch site plan at the Freihoffer parcel would require either variances or the adoption of the second revised proposed local law, this board has determined that it is appropriate to review the potential environmental impacts of the second revised proposed local law with consideration to the limited information provided in the sketch plan submitted by Mr. Fiscaldo and attached hereto is Exhibit P. Whereas because Mr. Fiscaldo did not continue to pursue the application before the planning board, of the town of Unionville with the town code 210-63, 6-month timeframe for review. On October 5th, 2025, code enforcement officer alerted Mr. Fiscal that his application was considered abandoned, which correspondence attached here to as Exhibit S. And whereas, as further described in the FEAF Part 3 for the proposed local law annexed as Exhibit Z, although the hypothetical Fiscaldo project described above was preliminary in nature, was not designed beyond a sketch site plan, and is now abandoned according to the Unionville Code Enforcement Officer. The town board considered the sketch site plan in a secret review of the proposed local law to the extent possible, and in accordance with 6 NYCRR 617.3G. And whereas the town board has reviewed a memorandum of KIARC Consultants, KARC, dated January 28th, 2025, regarding the consistency of this action with the town's comprehensive plan, the March 14th, 2025 memorandum addressing multiple questions and concerns raised. An April 21, 2025 memorandum addressing modifications to the first proposed local law following the February 5th, 2025 public hearing, and a September 17th, 2025 memorandum addressing Dutchess County traffic data, all annexed at Exhibit T. And whereas the town engineer, Thomas Harvey, P.E., has submitted an opinion regarding the traffic and noise aspects of this rezoning and the efficacy of their control by the terms of the second revised proposed local law dated January 9th, 2025. And also a memorandum regarding engineering site distance review dated October 24th, 2025. Both are which are annexed as Exhibit U. Whereas this town board has reviewed the FEAF Part 1 and pursuant to further review by KARC, had made inconsequential changes to sections BE and C3C as reflected at Exhibit V, and authorized the supervisor to execute the FEAF Part 1 at its regular meeting on January 21st, 2026. And whereas at the January 21, 2026 meeting, the minutes of which are annexed here too as Exhibit W, the town board received a draft FEA Part 2 prepared by KARC and reviewed the considered same. And whereas the board, having received additional information and documentation from its consultants and wishing to give the public an opportunity to respond to all relevant information, resolved to set an additional public hearing to be held on February 4th, 2026, and authorize the town clerk to circulate a notice of the public hearing to adjacent municipalities in accordance with the GML 239-NN, which resolution is included in the meeting minutes at Exhibit W. And whereas, in accordance with the Open Meetings Law 103E, more than 24 hours prior to the January 21st, 2026 meeting, the town caused to be posted to its website for public inspection a compiled record of the proceedings and an index of exhibits, a draft copy of the inconsequentially revised FEAF Part 1, a draft of the FEAF Part 2 prepared by the town planning consultant, and a draft copy of the resolution set to the public hearing. 1 second. And whereas similarly, more than 24 hours prior to the February 4th, 2026 meeting, the town caused to be posted to its website for public inspection a draft copy of the FEAF Part 3 form narrative and narrative, a draft of the secret negative declaration, and a draft of the resolution adopting FEAF Part 2, Part 3, and negative declaration to be discussed by the town board at the February 4th meeting and adopted and is reflected as Exhibit Z, Exhibit AA, Exhibit BB below. And whereas at its meeting on February 4th, 2026, the meeting minutes of which are annexed at Exhibit X, the town board opened the duly denoticed public hearing, received comment from all those who wish to be heard at the time, heard from KARC regarding the draft FEAF Part 2 and Part 3 documents, which had been prepared, and allowed the town's consultants to respond directly to the concerns posed by the public. And whereas the town board reviewed the FEAF Part 2 annexed here too as Exhibit Y, and the FEAF Part 3 form and narrative annexed as Exhibit Z, exhibits thereto excluded as redundant of materials already annexed herein, prepared by its consultants, and further reviewed the short EAF submitted to the planning board and ZBA for the potential Freihofer project at Exhibit P and Exhibit R, the memoranda prepared by the KARC, see Exhibit T, the memoranda prepared by Tom Harvey, PE, Exhibit U, the limited information regarding the potential use of the Freihofer parcel as a wedding venue as depicted in the sketch site plan, and other documents at Exhibit P and R, which review assumed said plans would be limited by the requirements of the second revised proposed local law. And whereas, after considering all of the above, the board reviewed and discussed the draft negative declaration prepared by its consultant annexed at the Exhibit AA, found that no significant environmental impact will result from the adoption of the second revised proposed local law, and therefore no further environmental review of this rezoning is required, and no environmental impact statement, EEIS, must be prepared, and therefore resolved to adopt the FEAF Part 2, the FEAF Part 3, and the negative declaration resolution annexed here too as Exhibit BB, and or which relate to matters that should be parcel specific application for catering facility under this proposed local law are already exclusively within the jurisdiction of the planning board and not the town board.
You skipped the page.
I wondered.
Yeah.
There it is. I had it flipped over wrong. Okay. Whereas the February 4th, 2026, after having adopted the secret documents as described above in the next here too, while the duly noted public hearing remained open, the town board gave the public opportunity to comment further, which comments were received and acknowledged, and which did not identify any new issues which the board had not already identified, addressed, and considered. And the board subsequently voted to close the public hearing. And whereas, although the corrections of the proposed local law as contained in Exhibit N were clerical rather than substantive, at its February 18th, 2026 meeting, the town board directed the clerk to re-refer the local law along with the materials received and relied upon by the town board in making its secret determination of significance to the Dutchess County Planning and Development and the Town of Unionville Planning Board for comment. And whereas on March 18th, 2026, the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development again responded that adopting the proposed local law was a matter of local concern, with no comment as reflected in Exhibit CC. And whereas on March 12th, 2026, the Town of Unionville Planning Board responded with a favorable recommendation regarding the adoption of the proposed local law with no recommended modifications, and next here too, Exhibit DT. And whereas after both the close of the public hearing on February 4th, 2026 and February 18th, 2026, re-referral in addition to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development and the Town of Unionville Planning Board responses, the town received 4 correspondences which reiterate questions previously raised, and which the town board had fully reviewed, considered, and found not to present to potential for significant adverse impact or which relate to matters that which should be a parcel specific application for a catering facility under this proposed local law are already exclusively within the jurisdiction of the planning board and not the town board. And I'd like to pause for a minute and confirm with the town clerk that these 4 correspondences will be entered into the record.
Yes, all that will be entered into the minutes.
Thank you. Whereas a copy of the second revised proposal local law, now referred to as local law number 1 of 2026, previously local law number 1 of 2025, and formerly local law number 2 of 2024, as attached here to at Exhibit N, is incorporated herein, and the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said local law and directs that the second revised proposed local law be spread across the record as if, in fact, it had been read verbatim. And whereas said local law has been on the desks of the members of the town board of the town of Unionville for at least 7 days, exclusive of Sunday, and whereas this town board has considered all the foregoing documentation, proceedings, comments, and correspondence received regarding the second revised proposal local law, now therefore be it resolved that after considering all the documents and information referred to above, this town board restates its secret findings as contained in the executed FEAF Part 1, FEAF Part 2, FEAF Part 3 form and narrative and negative declaration, and reaffirms its finding that the proposed local law will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and be it further resolved that the proposed local law annexed at Exhibit N be and is hereby enacted Town of Unionville Local Law Number 1 of 2026, entitled a local law amending zoning code article 11-210-86, 210-56E, and attachment 210-3 relating to the establishment of a special permit in the RD10 district for catering facilities with a temporary lodging component and the elimination of a conference center as a permitted use in the RD10 district. And be it further resolved that this local law shall be referred to as 210-86, 210-56, and attachment 210-3 of the Town of Unionville Town Code, and be it further resolved that this local law shall take effect upon adoption by the town board and filing with the New York State Secretary of State in accordance of applicable provisions of law, and specifically Article 327 of the Municipal Home Rule Law. The question of the adoption foregoing was duly put to vote on a roll call vote, which resulted in follows. Can I get a second on that, please?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I think I've made my position pretty clear, but I'll just make it clear again. I completely disagree with this. This law should, at the very least, be considered as a larger part of an RD10 review. I think that we've spent, just so everybody knows, probably $100,000 on this law so far. And from all that I've heard, there's a lawsuit that's coming as soon as this thing passes. It's going to cost us another $100,000. For what? I'm not entirely sure. There's no application supposedly pending. I think that we'd be better off putting a moratorium on what we viewed as a problem, being the conference center, and then review all of RD10 like we should, like we did in the town center. I think that we really are making a mistake here. I just don't see where the juice is worth the squeeze here. And I don't see it. So, I'm not wholly opposed to this on its face, but I am opposed to it in the context of just looking at this as one issue. I think if we really looked at RD10 and then decided that all of RD10 needed to be changed, among other things that are probably glaringly obvious if we went through it, maybe this could hold up. But I think just looking at this resolution, I've been here since 2014. I've never seen a resolution that's this long with this many exhibits. It's pretty clear. I don't know. So That's my.
Well, we covered all our bases and made sure that they were covered. We've been working on this an extremely long time.
I agree.
We've taken all the comments that were said into consideration and moving this forward. I think it's a good move for the town. It will attract some suitable businesses to our town, and we do need to bring some business too here that can bring tax relief to our residents.
I agree. And if you say we've spent $100,000 and that we should just do this later, you're saying we should just throw out that $100,000 already spent. You yourself said on the face of this, you have nothing against it. So why not pass it if we've done the work? We can still revisit all of the rest of
Sure.
the laws.
Sure, I think that we could, the $100,000 is not lost. It's spent, but you could bank the knowledge that we have all here. I don't think, I think that if you take that $100,000 and say you banked it, and rather than throw it down the toilet, which is what's going to happen by getting sued over this thing, we could then use this basis to continue to look at RD10 and continue down that road and correct other issues that we have in RD10.
It's not ethical to allow the threat of a lawsuit to prevent a law from going through if the majority of the elected officials think that it's a positive law.
I would agree. We should not bow to that. I just don't, like I said, I don't see where we're getting anything out of this. There's not really anything out of this. This could be an agricultural property that was going to maintain agriculture. It's not going to, there might be a business there, but it's really not going to generate a ton of revenue.
I don't think either one of you are going to agree to agree
No.
here tonight. So
Call for the question. Let's
My-
put it to a vote.
Well, my thought is on the whole thing, conference center has a very large impact, sometimes a negative impact. I think the proposal that we're looking at is
Point of order.
a less impact.
Point of order. I call for the question. The Robert's Rules of Order, we put that to a vote. We
do have a discussion period after.
We do have a discussion period. But our discussion is taking us nowhere. We're not going to disagree on this. We haven't agreed as a 5-member board on this since the beginning that we had. Okay? We have a resolution on the table. I call for the question. Let's put it to a vote.
It would require a vote and it would require 2/3 of the board, so 4 people would have to vote to call a question.
I'd like to
And
let Councilman McGivney finish his comment, and then we'll hold a vote.
Well, the vote is just to stop all discussion and call the question. So
Okay.
if you want to have further discussion, you can vote against the point of order and discussion would continue.
Do you have any additional?
No, I guess I said my piece.
Okay. I guess go for a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Harrington,
Aye.
Councilman Redzinger,
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Durland.
No.
Okay, thank you. I would like to delay this next topic until after our executive session. Our attorney would like to discuss the final agreement that was made with us prior to voting. A motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of doing that?
Aye.
Okay. Then last month we discussed the Highlands Conservation Act, and our attorney was happy with the the requirements of approving that. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. And Ms. Attorney.
He's been around a long time. He knows it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
So we have, and then just to review, what that does is allow Unionville residents to participate in a federal conservatory program where funds could be available to put properties up as conservation properties. Councilman Redinger, would you mind reading that?
Town of Unionville Town Board Resolution number 37 of 2026. Resolution in support of being officially included in the Federal Highlands region as maintained by the Fish and Wildlife Service for the Highlands Conservation Act grant program. Whereas the Highlands region encompasses more than 3 million acres of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And whereas the Highlands region is an area of national significance possessing substantial natural beauty, containing contiguous forests and productive farmland, numerous cultural and historic sites, plentiful recreation opportunities, and the protection and supply of important drinking water sources for over 15 million people. And whereas the U.S. Congress in bipartisanship passed the Highlands Conservation Act, Public Law 10-421, that was signed into law by the President of the United States on November 30th, 2004, designating the Highlands as a significant natural conservation priority region. And whereas the Highlands Conservation Act authorizes the Secretary of the Interior and the Secretary of Agriculture to provide financial assistance to the Highlands states to preserve and protect high-priority conservation land in the Highlands region. And whereas the United States Fish and Wildlife Service manages a voluntary grant program to assist Highlands states, local units of government, and private forest and farm landowners in the conservation of land and natural resources in the Highlands region in coordination with willing sellers. And whereas land preservation efforts in the Highlands region should link the parks, historic sites, wetlands, wildlife habitats, streams, rivers, reservoirs, watershed, trails, scenic and natural lands, and other protected areas unique to the region for the enjoyment of future generations. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The Town Board of the Town of Unionville hereby supports being officially included in the Federal Highlands boundary as maintained by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for the Highlands Conservation Act grant program, therefore thereby qualifying for financial and technical assistance provided by the U.S. Congress.
Have a second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think I'm in favor of it, but I would just like to point out how contradictory it is to considering we just passed a law that just reduced the lot size from 100 acres to 75 acres in the very last law that we just passed. But I am for it.
I don't see any drawbacks to joining on to this, to open us up to federal grants. So I don't really see any drawbacks to this.
Have a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Harrington,
Aye.
Councilman Redinger,
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier,
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Derlin.
Aye.
Okay, any comment on town issues? Okay. We're gonna make a motion to move into executive session then to discuss that contract. When we return, we may determine whether or not to move forward with the contract proposal. It's for our copier here at Town Hall. The second, motion to move into executive session.
Make a
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll be back shortly. Motion to return from the executive session.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, no funds were allocated and no decisions were made. We do have a contract proposal here for our copier. The other contract had expired. Councilman Derlin, would you mind reading that for us, please? Sure.
Town of Unionville Town Board Resolution number 36 of 2026, resolution authorizing settlement relating to claims against the town of Unionville. Whereas the town of Unionville Public Library has a contract with Leaf for the lease of a copier machine for library purposes. And whereas the town of Unionville also has a contract with Leaf for the lease of copier machines for the town, which term is expiring and must be renewed. And whereas Leaf is alleging the contract between the library and Leaf is currently in default, and Leaf has referred the matter to collections and has threatened litigation against the town. And whereas after much deliberation and negotiation with Jeff Wexler of Bell Copier, with an address of 600 Violet Avenue, Hyde Park, New York, 12538. The town's independent third-party broker for the copier contract. The town and the broker have agreed to settle the threatened claim against the town to prevent any further litigation as set forth in the annexed settlement agreement. Now therefore be it resolved as follows: the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The town board of the town of Unionville, pursuant to town law 65, hereby determines that it is reasonable, acceptable, and in the best interest of the town to settle the claim by leaf to prevent any further litigation and legal costs to the town. The town board of the town of Unionville hereby authorizes the town supervisor, upon final review by the attorney to the town, to execute the annexed settlement agreement in substantially the same form as annexed here too.
Okay, second on that, please.
Second.
Any further discussion? The roll call vote?
Councilman Harrington,
Aye.
Councilman Reitinger.
Aye.
Supervisor Frazier.
Aye.
Councilman McGivney.
Aye.
Councilman Derlin.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion to pay the bills?
Make the motion.
Second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, our next meeting will be here April 15th at 7:30 PM. Want to thank everybody for coming, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you.